Big 12 is officially All-Star 12. It is a moment we knew was coming. It is finally here. Ja Morant is an All-Star starter, the first Memphis Grizzlies guard to have that honor, and we have a whole squad to break it down. Pete Pranica, Brevin Knight, Rob Fischer. I'm Jessica Benson. Let's just hop right into it, and we'll start with you, Pete. In this moment of the continuing evolution of Ja Morant's superstardom, what does this mean for him and what he's done thus far this season?
This is the first step into creating an all-star legacy here in Memphis. And I think it's no exaggeration to assume that he will be the most impactful player to have ever worn the Grizzlies uniform. And he's just at the very start right now. He combines tremendous athleticism with an unbridled desire to be absolutely great, and also tremendous basketball IQ. You see the athleticism here, but also the basketball IQ. I want to take it off the board so I can start the fast break. Too bad the backboard got in the way and jarred the ball loose.
Absolutely. And Brevin, we saw Ja Morant go into the dark mode this offseason, and we saw him emerge a more complete player here in year 3. What has stood out to you as the biggest growth in Ja's game that has led him to this all-star starter status?
The rhythm threes has been a great addition to his game. The ability to know, should I go all the way to the rim to finish? Should I stop at the defensive restricted area to float? Or should I just get one step inside the free throw line? His ability to score in different ways in the painted area when you know that everyone wants to stop you from getting there, I think has been the evolution. And then in his last game, when he played his game, their game against San Antonio Spurs, I think we saw another step in terms of his defensive acumen, in terms of how hard he played defensively, how he was able to take away angles against DeJounte Murray. And so I just think that the entirety of his game has grown leaps and bounds from one year to the next.
As we've seen the national attention continue to grow when it comes to Ja Morant this season, and accumulating right now with him having the opportunity to play on one of the NBA's biggest stages. Rob, what does it mean for the city of Memphis and for the Memphis Grizzlies organization to have Ja Morant with that chance to represent them?
I think it's going to be great because I think if you look around the league and had to pick out one player in the league who exemplifies what an all-star game is all about, it's Ja Morant. I mean, the flair, the dramatics, the dunks, the assists, the passing. I mean, everything that he does, it's going to be on a national stage. And I think the attention that he's gotten over the last month is only going to increase on that stage. You know, superstars shine brightest on the biggest stages. I'm looking forward to next week when he goes to the Garden. I mean, that's what big-time players do. They just show up when it's the big moments. And I think for the All-Star game, he's going to be a great representative. And like Pete said, this is a start of a long legacy of him being an All-Star. And I think a long legacy of this Grizzlies organization being a really good team to deal with.
Yeah, it's been a season of just constant growth, and as that wave has grown from him having his first Nike ad to moving into the top 10 of jersey sales to even having his name and MVP chanted in opposing teams' arenas at this point and having it here at FedEx Forum too. Pete, I'll ask you, the next step, he is in this MVP conversation at this point in the season. Where does his name stand for you right now?
Well, I think he's definitely in the top 5 of the conversation because he's able to do so much. And it is all translated to the Grizzlies winning basketball games. I know the Grizzlies were successful when he was out with a knee injury, but they've been even more successful when he has been in. The ability for him to put up big numbers really across the board. And you're looking at the turnover numbers coming down. He's had a couple of games with 8 assists and 1 or 2 turnovers, which, given his high activity level, is really good. So I definitely have him in the top 5. If the Grizzlies continue to hold on to the 3 seed, if they continue to win at this current pace, I think it elevates his chances. It elevates his ranking, his status in the MVP race.
I'll ask each of you, and Brevin, I'll start with you. Favorite Ja highlight or moment this season? And I'm going to steal the chase down block on Avery Bradley, so you all have to figure out a different one to go with.
I'm the worst person to ask this question, man, because when we go through these things, they're like, you remember when?
No.
I'm not the greatest remember when person. I mean, he's done so many fantastic things. And so for me, it's not one moment. To me, it's the clutch moments that he has been. This team is, when they've needed something in late game situations, he's provided that. And that is, to me, when you start talking about MVPs or all-stars, starter, all-star, though, that is the key. Your team wins, and your stats are a direct reflection of why your team wins, and especially in late game moments. And so, I mean, his moments are infinite in what you can say. So I don't know if there's just one that I can say was great. The rundown was fantastic. The dunk against the Nets, just what he had in Brooklyn, where he just created enough space to then get the one-hand slam. I mean, we can go down the list. For me, what's impressive is he's able to do it in winning time. And when they need big performances or big shots or big plays, he makes them for this team.
Yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr. said it. The Grizzlies have the most clutch player to have down the stretch. Rob, is there something that stands out to you?
Mine is Brevin described mine. It's the game winner in Phoenix. For how big of a win that was, for him to do that down the stretch, to finish that game. And when everyone in the arena knew exactly what was coming. Ja was getting the ball, and he was going to go to the basket. And he gets the game winner with everyone in the arena knowing it's coming. I mean, that's what great players do, and to me that was my favorite. And I got to call that one on the radio, so that was it was exciting for me.
Pete, how about you?
Well, I mean, I would go certainly with the Phoenix game winner, but also the 360 spin against Chicago, because he had just had that dust up with Tony Bradley, and of course we had Steven Adams with the great moment of carrying Tony Bradley away. And Ja admitted, I wanted to rip the rim down. I was angry. And the path to the rim was blocked. And so he went to a 360 spin. What's amazing about Ja is that he pulls off these amazing moves. And it's not to be fancy. They're totally utilitarian. And he's probably the only person on the planet that could pull them off. So a 360 spin for him, it's not him trying to be fancy. It's just him trying to get the ball in the bucket. And I would certainly underline that. The other thing, too, talking about him being clutch, against San Antonio, 6 for 6 from the free throw line with the game on the line. It's not just the 360 spins and the slams. It's also the ability to deliver in the clutch.
And the confidence of him pulling up from 3 this season has been so fun to watch. When you have a player who truly gives you highlights night in and night out, things that you've never seen, I'll also take it from some of the extra things off the court, like when he stares down a young fan wearing a Golden State Warriors jersey and won't give him a high five because he's in a Steph jersey, and he calls him out and starts a movement of, okay, let's do a jersey trade-in and see how many more fans we can get here in FedEx Forum wearing his jersey or Jaren Jackson Jr.'s jersey or any of his teammates, which takes me to the next point, because Ja Morant will be the first to tell you he's not here without his teammates, and the depth that we've seen from this Grizzlies roster is what has them in third in the West, third best record in the NBA. A lot of it comes with the development of both Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane. And Brevin, let's start with the king of the block party, Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yes.
How impressed have you been with especially the defensive evolution that we've seen from Jaren this season?
Well, I think it's been huge because it again, with what Ja is able to do, and for me, I think he improvises, talking about Ja, more than anyone can do in the game today. But what Jaren has been able to do on the defensive side, the blocking shots, the being a rim protector, but also just being a guy that teams now have to worry about when they get to the basket. That was something that the Grizzlies did not have in the past. So his ability to block shots and to do it without fouling has been crucial for this team. And we talked about, for him, he's always been a guy that was good on the defensive side. You go back to college, he was blocking shots at Michigan State. When he got to the league, it was just a matter of figuring out, how do I continue to be a defensive player but not foul? And he has figured that out. And the other thing is his versatility. If you watch the highlights that you're watching of him, this isn't him standing at the basket against a big guy and blocking shots. This is him defending smalls, them getting to the basket, and then him blocking a shot while being the primary defender. So his defense, along with what Ja has been able to do, direct reflections of why the Grizzlies are where they are, but very happy that he's able to dominate games from that defensive side to alleviate some of the pressure of you have to do everything offensively in order for him to have an effect on this team.
And alleviating some of that offensive burden has been Desmond Bane. And Rob, 29 teams passed on Desmond Bane, which is their loss, and the Grizzlies' tremendous gain. How big has Bane's development been here in year 2, his sophomore season, in really elevating the ultimate ceiling for the Grizzlies this season?
It's been huge. I'm proud of myself because before the season, I thought he, outside of John Jaren, he'd make the biggest leap, and he'd be a guy that'd be a huge impact going into the starting lineup. I'd be foolish to tell you I thought he'd be this good because he's been great. His consistency, night in and night out, has been wonderful. And I think the thing that we've learned, and we saw it in the San Antonio game the other night, was he doesn't have to score threes to score. I mean, he had 20 points in that game. He was 1 of 3 from 3. But he's capable of hitting 5 or 6 in a game. His improvement, his confidence, the way that he fits in with the other guys, all of that stuff has been tremendous growth for Desmond Bane. And I think one of the guys who you'd look at as one of the leaders on this team as well, in the way that he acts and conducts himself.
Yeah, with that trio of Ja, Jaren, Desmond Bane, and the rest of the depth that this Grizzlies roster has. Pete, I'll ask you, what can this team accomplish this season the rest of the way?
Well, I think they're certainly capable of finishing top 4 in the West, which earns you first-round home court advantage. I see this as a team definitely would take a first-round playoff series, and now you're thinking about, okay, can we win a conference semifinal series? Can we get to the conference finals? If this team remains healthy, and, the Grizzlies have gone on this amazing run, and Dillon Brooks has been out with a bad ankle. The Grizzlies have weathered the COVID storm as well as any team in the NBA. So if they are healthy and they reintegrate everybody and remain healthy for the rest of the year, I see them being a top 4 seed, definitely winning a first-round playoff series. And now you get into the conference semifinals, and we'll find out just what the ceiling of this team could be.
Brevin, want to expand on that because we've talked about it a lot in not having seen the Grizzlies operate at full strength through this entire time, and seeing Dillon Brooks on this road trip and being out there not with an ankle boot, and you don't want to rush him back, but when he eventually rejoins this team, what excites you the most about the potential that a full strength Grizzlies team has based on the roster that they've put together this year?
Well, the good thing is they haven't taken a step back much on the defensive side. Yes, in terms of individual matchups, you would like for Dillon to be out there to defend against some of these bigger guards that they played against, but as a unit, as a team, they have continued to have the same mindset on the defensive side with the guys that are able to play it, and so that's a positive. And then you say when you get Dillon back, when you get Kyle back, that now and then Tyus from out of health and safety protocols, now your rotation is so much deeper for this team, but also the thought process in terms of what type of lineups they can put out on the floor. That is something that can be an advantage for Taylor Jenkins and his staff, because they've had to mix and match with guys being down, and when they have been down, they've still been able to have success. And so when you get your guys back, it's nice that you can start to have maybe your set starting lineups, but after that, within the game, you can do what is necessary to combat what your opponent is doing. So I'm excited to see when they have a full squad what this Grizzlies team full potential is, because the one thing that I do know is there's not a team that they can't beat. There's not one team in the association that scares me to the point where I say, no, I don't know if we can beat them. And that is something, if you are playing in this league, you would like to have that luxury to say, no matter who you put out in front of us, we can beat that team, and we can play whichever style is necessary to win games.
And we'll see if they can even get to 40 wins before the All-Star break, and the All-Star break presents an opportunity for some rest, obviously. Some will be busier than others during this break. And to bring it back to that All-Star game, one last question for y'all when it comes to Ja Morant being a starter. He has talked so much this season. He's not afraid of meeting anyone at the rim. And we knew he wasn't going to do the dunk contest. He has always made it very clear. But when you're in the All-Star game, it's not a whole lot of defense constantly being played in the All-Star game. Who would you most like to see Ja Morant attempt to dunk on, perhaps? And dunk on in the All-Star game is a loose term. But, Rob, who would you like to see?
Joel Embiid.
Brevin?
Giannis.
And Pete?
You took both
Who's
of mine.
left?
That's a really, really good question. Let's see. Kevin Durant is injured. I don't know. Maybe can he dunk on Harden?
All right.
Dunk on Harden's head?
The All-Star dunk trifecta. We'll see if Ja Morant can do it.
What about you?
All three.
Okay.
Go with all three. Make it a collective unit here. But it will be exciting, and we're excited to see Ja Morant as an All-Star starter, the first Grizzlies guard to have that honor. Thank you for joining us all for this All-Star breakdown. We'll see you again soon.